Stop. If you are over 60 and you have been standing in front of that mirror lately thinking your hair is just thinning out for good, I need you to give me a few minutes before you pick up a brush, before you touch that blow dryer, before you put one single drop of product anywhere near your scalp this morning. Because what I am fixing to show you might mean your hair was never really the problem at all. It might just mean you have been styling fine hair after 60 the wrong way for years, and not one person ever sat you down and told you the truth about it. Look here a moment. This is the same woman, same head, same amount of hair she was born with, same everything. But look at the difference between these two pictures. One way of styling leaves that scalp showing right through, flattens the whole crown down, and quietly adds 10 years to her face before she's even walked out her front door in the morning. The other one hands her back every bit of that volume and takes those same 10 years right back off. Same woman, same hair. Two completely different results. And I promise you, that is not a filter, that is not a wig, and that is not some miracle bottle off the drugstore shelf. That right there is technique, plain and simple. And technique is something every single one of us can learn. Now, I have spent close to 30 years working with women over 60, first behind the chair as a stylist, and these days right here on this channel, helping you put your whole look together, hair included. And in all that time, the one sentence I hear more than just about any other, more than, "What do I wear to my granddaughter's wedding?" more than, "Is this too short for a woman my age?" is some version of, "I think I'm going bald. My hair used to be so full. I honestly don't recognize myself some mornings when I look in that mirror." And what I am fixing to walk you through today is the very thing that changed everything for a client of mine, I'll call her Carol, who was absolutely convinced she was going bald right up until the day I sat her down in my chair and showed her the 5 mistakes she had been making every single morning without ever once realizing it. Here's what's actually going on, and I want you to really sit with this for a moment, because it is going to change the way you look at your own hair from here on out. Your hair is very likely not nearly as thin as you believe it is for your age. It is being styled in a way that shows off your scalp, flattens your roots before you've even had your coffee, and hides every bit of the volume you have genuinely still got underneath it all. I see these same 5 mistakes on nearly every single woman who sits down in my chair, whether she's 62 years old or she's 84. So today, I'm counting them down for you, 5 all the way to 1, and that number 1 mistake is the one that decides whether any of the other 4 even do a lick of good. Stay with me clear to the end, because if you skip that last one, you will be right back here in a month, having done everything else right, and still asking yourself why nothing has changed. Now, before we get into number 5, go on and hit that subscribe button while you're thinking about it, because I have got a whole series planned on fine hair after 60 over the next few weeks, and this right here is only the very first piece of it. If this video helps you even a little today, what's coming next is going to help you even more, but only if you're still here to see it. And while we're on the subject of instantly looking pulled together, I want to hand you a little something extra today, because your hair is only one piece of the whole picture, isn't it? So every so often through this video, I am going to give you a quick styling secret to go right along with it. The very same thing I would tell you if you were standing in my dressing room this morning. Here is the first one. If you want your whole silhouette to look taller and more put together in about 10 seconds flat, stop breaking your outfit into 2 different colors right at the waist. Wearing one color or close shades within the same color family from your shoulders clear down to your shoes creates one long, unbroken line down your body, and that line does more for your figure than almost anything else hanging in your closet. It elongates you, it slims you down, it photographs beautifully every single time. Try it in navy, try it in a soft camel, try it in your favorite shade of green. It doesn't have to be black every single time, ladies. Just keep it one color family, head to toe, and watch what it does for you. Alright, now let's get you that volume back. Coming in at number 5, and I would bet money you did this one within the first 5 minutes of waking up this morning, maybe before you'd even gotten your coffee poured. Number 5, stop parting your hair in that exact same spot every single day. Now this sounds like such a small thing that most women just walk right past it without a second thought, but I promise you it is doing more damage than almost anybody realizes, and it is about as simple as it is sneaky. When you part your hair along that very same line day after day, year after year, decade after decade, you are training that strip of scalp to stay uncovered permanently. Picture a trail worn through a field from the very same footsteps walked over and over again for years. Eventually, the grass on either side just leans away from that path instead of ever growing back over it. That is precisely what happens along your part over time. The hair on both sides slowly learns to fall away from that line instead of toward it, and that gap widens a little more every single year, whether you ever notice it happening or not. Now, with fine hair after 60 especially, that turns into a genuine strip of visible scalp, and it makes the thinning look a good deal worse than it actually is. I mean that sincerely. I have had women sit down in my chair just devastated, absolutely convinced they were losing their hair in a serious way. And once we actually examined the density across the whole head, the hair was there the entire time. It was simply all being pushed away from one line that had been worn into that scalp by the very same part for 20, 30 years running. Now the fix here is almost silly, it is so simple. Move your part over just a touch every few days. You don't need to do anything dramatic, sugar. Just half an inch one way or the other is plenty to make a real difference. That little shift lets your hair lift up naturally from the root, instead of collapsing into that same tired old path. And it adds volume right where you need it most, right at the crown, which happens to be the very first place anybody's eye lands on when they look at your hair. That one little habit alone fixes more than most women ever expect walking my door. But number 4 is the one that's going to surprise you around your hairline, so don't go anywhere, because this next one catches nearly everybody off guard, myself included back when I was first learning it.
Number 4. Quit brushing your hair straight back away from your face. I see this constantly, and it ages a woman faster than she ever realizes while she's doing it to herself. When you brush fine hair after 60 straight back, whether you're pulling it into a ponytail, twisting it up into a bun, or simply smoothing it down before you head out that door, you are pulling it tight against the scalp and putting your entire hairline right out on display for the world to see. Fine hair after 60 wants softness around the face. It wants gentleness. What it does not want, ever, is tension, and a tight, straight back brush is nothing but tension from root to end. Every single time you yank your hair back tight, you are putting mechanical strain on follicles that hormones and age have already weakened plenty on their own without any help from you. Over the years, that repeated strain makes any recession along your hairline look a good deal worse than it genuinely is underneath. I have watched this pattern play out again and again with my own clients. The women who wore tight styles for decades on end tend to show the most visible thinning right at the temples and along that front hairline, in the exact pattern you would expect from years of pulling and tension, and not necessarily from hair loss on its own at all. So here's what to do instead. Brush your hair forward toward your face before you do one single other thing with it. Then guide it back into place gently, using your fingers rather than a brush or a fine-tooth comb. Leave a few soft pieces loose around your face instead of slicking every last strand back into place like you're heading into battle. This one small adjustment creates the look of a good deal more volume, and it frames your whole face in a softer, considerably younger way, and it costs you maybe 30 extra seconds in your morning routine. That's the whole price of it. Now, since we're talking about softening the face, let me hand you the second little styling secret for today. The single fastest way to soften your entire look and pull every eye straight up toward your face instead of anywhere else is a scarf worn loose at the neckline in a color that sits close to your skin tone or picks up the color of your eyes. You don't have to tie it fancy, ladies, just loop it once and let it fall naturally. It does the very same thing as softening your hairline does. It draws the eye up toward your very best feature, your face, instead of down toward anything you'd rather not have highlighted. And when you're wearing a scarf like that, keep the rest of your jewelry simple. One focal point is always more elegant than 5 different pieces competing for attention all at once. All right, we are halfway through this list now, and number 3 might just be the easiest fix on the entire countdown, so stick with me here. Number 3, stop taking a regular brush to your hair while it is still wet. Wet hair is fragile hair, plain and simple, full stop. And fine hair after 60 is even more vulnerable in that state than you would ever think. When you run a regular brush through wet hair, you are stretching that hair fiber at the exact moment it is at its very weakest structurally. Here's a number that ought to surprise you. Healthy wet hair can stretch out to somewhere around 50% beyond its normal resting length before it actually snaps clean in two. 50%. That is not gentle styling, ladies. That is measurable damage happening strand by strand every single time you brush right out of the shower without thinking twice about it. Now, the good news here is this might genuinely be the easiest fix on this whole list. Use a wide tooth comb instead of a regular brush, and always start your detangling down at the ends, working your way up toward the roots as the knots let go, never starting up at the top and dragging straight down through a tangle like you're in a hurry. Better still, gently work through it with just your fingertips while the conditioner is still sitting in your hair in the shower, because that conditioner gives you slip, and slip means less friction and less breakage on hair that's already doing its best. Make just this one change, and within a couple of weeks, you will see a real difference in how much hair ends up on your brush and down that drain. Now, if this is helping you at all so far, go ahead and hit that like button for me right now, and if you haven't subscribed yet, this is a fine time to go on and do it, because number 2 is the one that almost nobody thinks to check, and I do not want you missing what's still coming later in this series. Number 2, never point that blow dryer nozzle straight down at your scalp. This one genuinely catches people off guard, even stylists who really ought to know better by this point in their careers. When you point the airflow downward while you're drying fine hair after 60, you are physically forcing that hair to lie flat against your scalp as it dries. You are, in effect, flattening it right into place with hot air, locking in the exact opposite of everything you're after. Once fine hair after 60 dries flat like that, there is next to no chance of any root volume surviving the rest of your day, no matter how much product you put in beforehand. Here's what actually works instead. Tip your head forward, down toward the floor, and dry your roots first, aiming that airflow up and away from your scalp, rather than straight down into it. If tipping your whole head over isn't comfortable for you anymore, section your hair instead, and lift each section up away from the scalp while you dry underneath it with the nozzle angled up the whole time. The goal, every single time, is to create lift and separation right at the root before you worry about smoothing one other thing. Once your roots are fully dry and standing up with a little texture to them, then, and only then, go ahead and smooth your ends. This one small change, simply flipping the direction your airflow is pointed, can make your hair look nearly twice as full by the time you walk that door, because you are finally working with your hair's own natural growth pattern instead of fighting it every single morning of your life.
All right, 4 down, 1 left to go. And this last one is the big one. The mistake I promised you right at the start would decide whether everything else you just learned actually works or falls apart by lunchtime. So give me 1 more minute here, because this is the piece that ties the whole thing together.
Number 1. Stop applying your styling products from root to tip. This is the mistake that quietly undoes every other fix on this entire list, even if you have mastered numbers 5 through 2 absolutely perfectly. Here is why. When you apply mousse, serum, oil, or a leave-in conditioner starting right at your roots and working your way down toward the ends, you are adding weight in the exact spot where you need the most lift and the very least weight of all. Fine hair after 60 simply does not have a whole lot of natural body to spare to begin with. Any product sitting directly on your scalp makes those roots look greasy, weighed down, and flat within an hour or 2 of leaving the house. And just like that, it quietly erases every single improvement you made with your part, your brushing, your wet hair handling, and your blow-drying technique, all in one swoop. So here is the rule, and I want you to actually hold on to this one. Products belong on the mid-lengths and the ends, and nowhere else on your head. Your roots ought to stay as clean, dry, and product-free as you can possibly manage throughout the entire day. The one real exception here is a dedicated root-lifting spray or a volumizing powder, since those particular products are formulated specifically to sit right at the base without weighing a single thing down, which puts them in a completely different category from your everyday serums and oils. Every smoothing serum, every shine spray, every leave-in treatment you own needs to stay well clear of that scalp from here on out. Do this consistently, and your roots stay lifted and full of movement all day long, while your ends stay smooth, controlled, and healthy looking right along with them. And since we're talking about balance, that very same principle, putting the emphasis where you need it and taking weight off where you don't, applies just as much to how you get yourself dressed in a morning. If you're carrying a little extra through the middle, the way most of us do at this stage of life, the trick is not to hide it under something shapeless and formless. The trick is proportion. A fitted top with a fuller skirt or a wide-leg trouser or a looser blouse over a slimmer pant, that kind of balance does more for you than any amount of baggy fabric ever could. And don't you forget your shoe in all of this. Even just an inch of heel or a pointed toe on a flat lengthens your entire leg line and changes the proportion of your whole outfit from the ankle clear on up. It's a small choice with a big difference, same as moving that part half an inch made all the difference in your hair. Now, here is the part almost nobody actually explains to you properly, and once you understand this, everything else on this list is going to make a great deal more sense. Your hair is not necessarily thinner just because you are shedding more strands than you used to. Now, yes, the hormonal shift that comes along with menopause does reduce overall hair density for a great many women, and yes, aging follicles genuinely do tend to produce narrower individual strands as the years go on. That part is entirely true, and there is real science behind it. Your own doctor will tell you the very same thing. But the real reason your hair looks so dramatically thinner now compared to when you were 40 is not mainly about how many strands you are losing off your head. It has far more to do with how narrow each individual strand has become. Let me give you a way to actually picture this in your mind. Imagine 100 pieces of thick cotton rope laid out side by side, right next to 100 pieces of fine sewing thread laid out that exact same way. Same number of pieces in both piles, but that rope takes up dramatically more space, more coverage, more presence on the table. That is precisely what is happening on your own head as you get older. You may well still have close to the same number of individual strands you had 20 years ago. It is simply that each one of those strands has grown narrower in diameter over time, so together they cover a good deal less visible surface, even though the actual count hasn't dropped anywhere near as much as it appears from the outside looking in.
And that is exactly why every single mistake on this list compounds the one before it. Parting your hair in that same spot every day increases just how much scalp shows through on strands that are already narrower than they used to be. Brushing straight back puts strain on those same thin strands and exposes even more of your hairline in the process. Rough brushing on wet hair breaks strands that are already more fragile from that reduced diameter to begin with. Drying with the nozzle pointed down wipes out the one bit of volume fine hair is still fully capable of holding onto, and product sitting right on your roots kills off any remaining chance at lift at the base before you've even left the house. Every single one of these mistakes builds right on top of the last one, which is exactly why fixing just one or two of them usually is not enough to see a real difference. You've got to work all 5 together as a set, not as a menu you pick and choose from. Now, here is the part that ought to give you some real hope instead of dread, and I tell my own clients this nearly every week I am working. I've had women walk into my chair absolutely convinced they were going bald, sit down defeated before we had even gotten started, and in one single appointment, I have shown them they had plenty of hair the entire time. They were simply styling directly against it, instead of working with what they genuinely had. I have watched women cry, genuinely cry with relief, looking at themselves in that mirror after we did nothing more dramatic than move apart, lift the roots the right way, and get every trace of product off the scalp. This kind of change does not cost you a fortune in salon treatments. It does not require any single supplement, and it does not need any kind of procedure whatsoever. It simply takes understanding how mature, fine hair actually behaves, and then working with that reality instead of fighting it every single morning of your life. Let me tell you about a client of mine I will call Joan, because her story is honestly the reason I still love doing this work after all these years in it. She came to see me a while back, and she was just devastated sitting down in my chair that first day. She had worn her hair pulled back into a tight bun every single day for better than 40 years, the exact same style clear back to her 20s. Her hairline had visibly pulled back along both temples, her part had widened out to nearly a full inch across, and you could see her scalp plain as day from almost any angle in the room, even under regular indoor lighting. She told me, nearly in tears before I had even touched a single strand of her hair, that she genuinely believed there was not one thing left to try, that this was simply what happened to a woman at her age, and she needed to just accept it and move on with her life. So I walked her through these same 5 rules, one at a time, right there in that chair. We changed that rigid, unmoving part of hers over to a soft, diagonal line instead. She gave up that tight, punishing bun for a low, loose updo that did not pull on a single follicle. We swapped that old paddle brush of hers out for a proper, wide-tooth comb for detangling wet hair. She started drying her hair upside down at the roots specifically to build that lift before she ever touched her ends. And we moved every one of her smoothing products over to the mid-lengths and ends only, leaving her roots completely bare and clean for the very first time in decades. 2 weeks later, she sent me photographs from her own home. Fuller, thicker, genuinely healthier-looking hair on that very same head with the very same amount of hair she had started out with just 14 days before. Now, nothing had grown back in 2 weeks. Of course it hadn't. That's not how hair works, and I would never tell you otherwise. What had changed entirely was how it was being styled morning after morning. She told me, and I still think about this often, that she had received more compliments on her hair in those 2 weeks than she had in the previous 10 years put together. Now, I do need to be completely honest with you about one thing before we wrap up here today. These 5 rules only work if you stay consistent with every single one of them. You cannot move your part just the once and expect the volume to last you forever. You cannot dry your hair upside down a single time and think that undoes 40 years of the opposite habit sitting on top of it. These are daily habits we're talking about here, not one-time fixes. And your hair has been trained a very particular way for years, sometimes for decades on end. Give yourself a little time to actually retrain it properly, and be patient with yourself while you're building these new habits into your routine, because I promise you the results are worth every bit of that small adjustment period you'll go through. If your hair already feels a little fuller just from hearing these 5 fixes explained out loud today, just imagine what it is going to look like once you actually put every one of them into practice over the coming weeks. Come back and tell me how it goes for you. I mean that sincerely. And let me know down in the comments which one of these 5 surprised you the most, because I genuinely do read every single one of them myself. Before you go, here is the only thing I will ask of you today. Go ahead and subscribe to Classic Fashion 60 Plus, because next week I am covering the one specific ingredient that is quietly aging fine hair after 60 faster than almost anything else on this entire list, along with a couple more real transformations just like Joan's. And after that, we are moving into the wardrobe side of things as well. So you are not just fixing the hair, you are pulling your whole look together, top to bottom, the very way we touched on a little today. This channel only gets better from here week after week, and I truly do not want you to be the one who finds out too late. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today, ladies, and I will see you in the very next one.